Hello students, today in this video we are going to read chapter 4, A Truly Beautiful Mind, which was about Albert Einstein. In the first part, we have read that about the childhood days of Albert Einstein. Until the age of 2.5 years, he was not able to speak, but when he spoke every word twice. And during his childhood, his friends called him Brother Boring. Even his mother also thought that he was a crazy person because of the abnormal size of his head. Even the headmaster of his school regards him as stupid and he was not good for anything. Even he proved all of them wrong. And when he was 6, his mother insisted that he should learn a violin and he became a skillful violinist. His father shifted to Munich when he was 15. But he feels uncomfortable with the strict discipline of the school. So he left the school for good because he had a clash with the teachers. After completing his schooling, he gets admission in the University of Zurich. After completing of school education, he gets admission in the University of Zurich because the atmosphere in the university is more liberal and they accept the new ideas, concept. Besides, he has more interest in physics and mathematics. But his interest also created in the fellow students, and he met a fellow student, Milvia Marvik, and she was equally very clever and intelligent. Afterwards, they got married and had 2 sons, but unlucky their marriage was not successful. Albert worked as a technical expert in the patent office. So, he presented his ideas on relativity. Even he put his paper on the special theory of relativity. And he also publicized his paper on general theory of relativity in 1950. Even he puts his paper on a special theory of relativity which follows by the world popular equation E equals a mc square, and this gives an absolutely new definition to the concept of gravity, and this theory makes him a famous figure. Now, during the solar eclipse of 1919, his theory came out as an accurate and changed physics. Now Nazis came to the power and he immigrated to the USA. But now he does so because he did not want to research and his finding to be used for destruction. Further, when Germany discovered the principle of nuclear fission in 1938, he was the first person to write to the American president about the dangers of atomic bombs. Moreover, in 1945, when America threw down the atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, he was deeply hurt. So again he writes a letter to the United Nations for the formation of a world government so that it can prevent recurrence of such destruction. In the future it will not be happen. Now let's start reading the chapter and we will get to know more incidents about in details. While Einstein was solving the most difficult problem in physics, his private life was unraveling. Unraveling means starting to fail. So though he was solving the difficult problem, complicated problems of physics for the world, but his personal life, his private life becoming problematic. वो problematic हो रही थी. He started to fail in his personal life. Albert had wanted to marry Milvia right after finishing his study, but his mother was against it. Albert Einstein wanted to marry Milvia. Milvia से शादी करना चाहते थे after his finishing his study. So, but his mother was against this marriage. She thought Milvia, who was 3 years older than her son, was too old for him. So Albert's mother thought that she was 3 years older to Albert Einstein and was very old for him. कि वो 3 साल उससे बड़ी है और ज़्यादा ही बड़ी है. So she was also bothered by Milvia's intelligence. Even she thought that Milvia was very intelligent to be a wife. She is a book like you. और वो उसी की तरह bookworm है. And Milvia was also like a book and was similar to him. So Einstein put the wedding off. So as his mother was against his marriage, so Einstein cancelled his wedding with Milvia. The pair finally married in January 1993, had 2 sons. But finally, Albert Einstein married Milvia in the year 1903, and they had 2 sons. But a few years later, the marriage faltered. लेकिन 2 साल के बाद the marriage became weak. Their marriage failed. Milvia, meanwhile, was losing her intellectual ambition and becoming an unhappy housewife. Milvia was very intelligent, being a housewife. She could not cope up with the ambitions, and she could not fulfill her ambition also. So she started becoming unhappy, and she became an unhappy housewife. After years of constant fighting, the couple finally divorced in 1919. Einstein married his cousin Elsa the same year. So Milvia was unhappy after his marriage, and so finally in the year 1919, after prolonged fighting, both of them separated, and Albert Einstein again got married the second time, and he married his cousin Elsa. Einstein's new personal chapter coincided with his rise to the world fame. At the time when Einstein got married with Elsa, another thing also occurred with it. It was the rise of his world fame. Now, coincided means occur at the same time. Both things occurred together when he got married with Elsa and his rise to the world fame. He became famous, and Einstein became famous, and he was acknowledged as a great scientist. और उसे एक great scientist के रूप में जाना जाने लगा, which provided a new interpretation of gravity. In 1915, he had published his general theory of relativity. So in the year 1915, he published his general theory of relativity, which provided a new interpretation, the explanation दिया of gravity. An eclipse of the sun in 1919 brought proof that it was accurate. So in the year 1919, there was a solar eclipse, and which proved that Einstein's general theory of relativity was correct. And Einstein had correctly calculated in advance the extent to which the light from fixed star would be deflected through the sun's gravitational field. Deflected means change the direction. Now, Albert Einstein had calculated in the year 1915 that in the year 1999 there would be a solar eclipse. उन्होंने पहले से calculation कर लिया था कि in the 1990 there would be a solar eclipse, and due to that the apparent clear position of the star would change to some extent, and the position of the stars will be going to be changed, and his calculation was accurate. So it was announced that Einstein's work was a scientific revolution, कि आइंस्टीन का जो वर्क है वो साइंटिफिक रिवोल्यूशन है. न्यूज़पेपर प्रोक्लेम हिज वर्क एज अ साइंटिफिक रिवोल्यूशन, और उसके वर्क को साइंटिफिक रिवोल्यूशन कहा जाने लगा. आइंस्टीन रिसीव द नोबेल प्राइज फॉर फिजिक्स इन 1921. आइंस्टीन गॉट अ नोबेल प्राइज फॉर फिजिक्स, and why? Because he has showered with honors and invitation, and one more award, the Nobel Prize, which he got in 1991. Einstein received the Nobel Prize for Physics in 1921. He was showered with honors and invitation from all over the world and lauded by the press. Einstein was awarded the Nobel Prize for Physics in the year 1921, and he was honored and was invited to various places all over the world. Even the press praised him. Lauded means praised, admired. When the Nazis came to power in Germany in 1933, Einstein immigrated to the United States. So in 1933, when Germany came under the power of Nazis is the famous Nazi ruler was Adolf Hitler. So at that time, Einstein left Germany. Einstein ने Germany छोड़ दिया and shifted to the United States of America forever. Immigrated lives one on country, अपनी country छोड़ के in order to settle permanently in another country, दूसरी country में रहने चले गए. 5 years later, the discovery of nuclear fission in Berlin had American physicists in an uproar. In uproar mean very upset. So after 5 years, 5 साल के बाद, the discovery of nuclear fission, the German discovered the process of nuclear fission, the process through which nuclear bombs or atomic bombs are made, कि किस तरीके से nuclear bomb और atomic bomb बनाए जाते हैं. And the process was prepared in Berlin. It was prepared in Berlin, and due to this, all physicists in America were very upset. In an uproar mean very upset, and they feared misuse of technology. Many of them had fled from fascism, just as Einstein had, and now they were afraid of Nazis could build and use atomic bomb. So there were many scientists who escaped to America because of fascism. बहुत सारे साइंटिस्ट अमेरिका शिफ्ट हो गए थे क्योंकि फासिज्म की वजह से. फासिज्म वॉज अ डिक्टोरियल कंसेप्ट विच वॉज स्टार्टेड इन यूरोप, जो कि यूरोप में स्टार्ट हुआ था फ्रॉम इटली बाय द रूल ऑफ मुसोलिनी. एंड they were afraid the Nazis could build and use an atomic bomb. So all the scientists had a fear. उनको fear था that the Nazis could misuse the bomb, कि Nazis misuse कर सकते हैं bomb का, atomic bomb का. Einstein was requested by a colleague. Urging me request, Einstein wrote a letter to the American President Franklin D. Roosevelt on August 39, and he warned in that letter that the atomic bomb, which was developed by the Germany, and if one of these bombs exploded in any port, it would not only destroy that area, but it would also destroy the surrounding territory. And this shows Einstein humanitarian quality. He wanted good for the people and he wanted peace in the world. That's why he wrote letter to the President of America and warned about this nuclear fission. His words did not fail to have an effect, but Albert Einstein letter had an impact on Franklin D. Roosevelt. उसके लेटर का कोई इफेक्ट नहीं पड़ा रूजवेल्ट पर. Even the Americans developed the atomic bomb in a secret project of their own and dropped it on the Japanese city of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August 1945. Even Einstein was deeply shaken by this extent of destruction. Even the Americans developed the atomic bomb secretly and dropped it on the Japanese city Hiroshima and Nagasaki and the German in 1945, and the Germans had just developed the atomic bomb and they did not use it on any country, but American had developed it and used it. Einstein was deeply shaken by the extent of the destruction. So lots of destruction had taken place in that area, in Japanese cities Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and Einstein was deeply shaken. This time he wrote a public missive to the United Nations, and this time he wrote a public missive. Missive is a letter, especially long and official letter to the United Nations, and in it he proposed the formation of a world government. Unlike the letter to Roosevelt, this one made no impact. Albert Einstein proposed to form a world government in that letter, but this letter did not bear any fruit, and there's no use to write a letter for Einstein. But over the next decade, Einstein got ever more involved in politics, agitating for an end to the arms build-up, using his popularity to campaign for peace and democracy. Now, for another 10 years, Albert Einstein was now involved in the world peace. He was involved not only in politics but also in world peace. His agenda was to stop the countries which are involving in collecting arms and developing weapons. He campaigned for world peace and democracy, and his main agenda was world peace and freedom of the people. When Einstein died in 1955 at the age of 76, he was much celebrated. He was celebrated as a visionary and world citizen as much as a scientific genius. So Einstein could foresee the future. He could see the future. That's why he wrote a letter to the United Nations and the Franklin D. Roosevelt. And when he died in 1955 at the age of 76, he was a world citizen and the world celebrated him as a visionary. Visionary means the person who can think about the future in an original way, in an intelligent way. And he was a world citizen because he was thinking for the world, not only for his own country. He was thinking about the world, and he was also a scientific genius also.